this point in our story, Humongous Entertainment was on a roll. They were coming up with new game titles left and right, and 1997 would prove to be another big year for them. Not just with it marking the company's 5th anniversary, but also with the debut of 3 new series in a single year. One was a duology series, Big Thinkers, that was their attempt to try to get on the preschool kindergarten market cornered by Play School and Jumpstart. The second was a sports game that would later become another big series for them, Backyard Baseball, and the third would be their 4th and final new junior adventure series, Spy Fox. The series is about Agent Spy Fox, the top spy agent of the Spy Corps agency, as he's assigned various missions to save the world, be they stopping a rampaging dogbot, a worldwide milk shortage, or preventing the entire ozone layer from being depleted. He's not alone on them though. With the help of Monkey Penny and Professor Quack, he gets the information and spy gadgets needed to help complete each mission and save the world from evil. Now, just a quick heads up, I wasn't able to find too much about the history of this series' production, and it's not from a lack of trying. I searched high and low looking for whatever information I could find, and was only able to find a handful of it. So this will be a rather short segment. Anyways, the idea for Spy Fox all began one day at a gym, when Brad Carlton and the late Brett Barrett were doing an impromptu brainstorming session. As they were both big fans of the spy genre, it was a match made in heaven. And since it was a genre Humongous hadn't done yet, they went ahead and pitched it, and the company gave it the green light to make it their next adventure series. When the game first began development, the first aspect they worked on was what sort of character it should be, as they've already done a car, a fish, and a young boy. They eventually settled with having the characters be animals, which made the most sense to them, and thus the title character would be named Sly Fox. However, since that name was already taken, at the suggestion of one person on the marketing team, they changed it to its final title, which everybody liked. Though the first name would have been fitting, they made the right call changing it since it gave the character a bit more distinction. For the overall design and animation of the games, you may have noticed that it looks a lot more graphic and stylized compared to the other 3, like something you'd find on Cartoon Network around this time. That's because the team took inspiration from various animated properties with a similar style, including Rocky and Bullwinkle, the cartoons of United Productions of America, or UPA, and legendary Looney Tunes background artist and Chuck Jones collaborator Maurice Noble. Interestingly, though the series is well known for making a lot of James Bond references, the actual source of inspiration came from the classic 1960s spy comedy series Get Smart. And, would you believe they even threw in a few catchphrases and references from that show, and even had Spy Fox's voice be based off the main character, Maxwell Smart.
The laser toothbrush makes impervious steel doors pervious. Would you believe me if I told you that I had my own television show on public access called Entering the Wax Museum?
On a side note, the preview featured in Freddy Fish 2 showed some of the other early ideas, like Spy Fox's fur was initially brown, and his car, the Asti Spumoni, was going to be black instead of white, both of which were changed for the finished game. Once everything was set up, it went through Humongous' usual production process, and thus the first Spy Fox game was born. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to cracking on these 3 cases. Starting off with dry cereal, a worldwide dairy shortage is occurring, all thanks to the ruthless mastermind William the Kid, who plans to replace all of the dairy milk byproducts with goat byproducts. Yuck! Meanwhile, Spy Fox is called in by Monkey Penny to rendezvous on the island of Acidopolis. His mission? To locate Kid's secret fortress, disarm the milky weapon of destruction, free the cows, and capture William the Kid. But he's gotta look for clues and use the right spy gadgets in order to find said secret fortress and put an end to Kid's evil plan. As the one to kick off the series, it's off to a great start. It does a great job at establishing the world, its characters, central location, tone, and the main conflict. It's your typical spy mission plot, but it puts an interesting and humorous spin on it, with there being a dairy drought, the main villain kidnapping dairy cows and framing them for the crime, while also plotting to take over the whole dairy industry. Like all of their other games, the gameplay has you going around town searching for clues, gathering up the necessary items, and rustling up spy gadgets in order to progress. But it adds an additional spin to make the gameplay feel different from the others, and that's with the talk balloons. Whenever an item or a specific piece of information needs to be obtained, the player can have Spy Fox use them to ask the locals a specific question, and the responses widely vary. Sometimes they'll provide the player and Spy Fox with some needed information or items, while others give hints as to where you're actually supposed to go. The puzzles here are more challenging than in the other three series and require plenty of timing, memorizing, and of course, creative problem solving. The team also did a great job at keeping players guessing what items they'll need and what path they're going to get. There's also a couple of mini-games, one of which is a fun little shooter minigame called Happy Fun Sub. The game and the series as a whole is very humorous, with some good jokes and moments, some witty one-liners, and as stated before, plenty of James Bond and Get Smart references. Not to mention a plethora of puns, though that last one depends on how much one tolerates that kind of wordplay.
This was probably a nice place until someone came along and ruined it. I guess you can teach old dogs new tricks. That thing is not only giving me the eye, it gave me the boot. Tanks, but no tanks.
Also, there are some clever and subtle ones sprinkled in there, like acidophilus is actually the name of the bacteria that changes milk into yogurt. The game's cast of characters are an amusing bunch, with some colorful and memorable personalities, though some are a bit one-note, and the island itself is a very unique location, and the crew did a good job at capturing some of the Greek vibe in some of the backgrounds. For the animation and overall look, while it is a departure from the other series, it does make it more unique and stand out, with the use of thick black outlines, a more angular look, and the character animation complements it. It's very snappy, but also smooth, and it can have some zany moments.
You'd think they would.
Another aspect it has going for it is having a good and bad ending. The latter happens when the player waits too long or decides not to go after the villain. Sure, they'll get a reward in the end, but it'll be a lesser one. However, if they do choose to give chase, they'll get the true ending where the villain is captured and are given a bigger reward. Now, if there's one element this game is most well known for, aside from the puns and references, it'd be the game of Goldfish. Now, on its own, it's a fun but rather challenging minigame that does require some strategy, and is optional, but only on the car path. Not so on the whitewater path. The player has to play it in order to get Captain Drydock's lucky charm back, and how it goes varies. Sometimes one might win on the first or second try, but other times it'll take several tries before one finally gets a win, which can be pretty frustrating. On a side note, I have to say that Bob Zank did a great job playing Spy Fox. He really gave the character that cool, suave, and witty smart-esque charm.
Impressive. Disguising it as a half-buried boat in the middle of the town square was a stroke of genius. Nobody would ever notice that.
Also, trivia note. The waltz music heard at the death party is an orchestral rendition of the cue used in Sam's room from the first Pajama Sam game. Now, before I get into the unused elements, I want to touch upon a rather interesting tidbit about the first game. When it was re-released in 2003, somehow Infogrames got a hold of the British dub and accidentally released it in America. This likely led to a bit of confusion for some players as to why the characters suddenly sound differently, particularly Spy Fox, as he sounded more like Bond than smart.
So this is the sleepy little Greek island of Acidophilus. I seem to have arrived unfashionably early, since nothing seems to be open.
So this is the sleepy little Greek island of Acidophilus. I seem to have arrived unfashionably early, as nothing seems to be open.
Getting into the unused elements, the game has some rather intriguing ones, including a slip of paper that had the spy jail's coordinates, which suggests it was originally written down before it was supplanted by the Spy Watch display, or was meant to be used on the autopilot instead of just punching in the coordinates. Also, the code used to enter Kid's Secret Fortress was initially a top balloon, as the original idea for it was probably for Spy Fox to ask the townsfolk about it, which wouldn't have been possible to do. Fascinatingly, there are some unused graphics for the Happy Fun Sub minigame, including 2 pages of sprites that were originally part of a how-to-play tutorial, planned power-ups for the spy ship, and even an armored version of it for each mode, which would have made the minigame more fun and challenging to play. There was also some unused animation of Johnny Gecko debating whether or not to accept Spy Fox's offer to trade music sheets. Not a lot of unused music cues here, but the ones it does have are intriguing, including 2 cues that are not known where they were meant to play, and one of which will later be used in Cheese Chase. A cue likely intended for Kid's Fortress, and the full version of the cue heard when Spy Fox attempts to swim past the guards and they give chase. Lastly, there is a plethora of unused dialogue, including but not limited to,
Can I get another order of chicken knuckles, please?
It's a bottomless bucket, honey. I think you still have plenty.
Ready for another bon voyage? Come aboard.
Do you know if B gives lessons in cockadoodle foo?
Sir, please stop wasting your time talking to me and go talk to B.
Monkey Penny, can you hack into the local video store's database to see what William the Kid's favorite movies are?
I've already thought of that. Kids' favorite movies are The Goat Father, Invasion of the Cow Snatchers, Goatbusters, and La Dolce Feta.
When Spy Fox began his mission on September 2nd, 1997, it ended up a great success. Critics gave it some good reviews, and it did very well, selling more than 2 million units over its lifetime. Fast forward 2 years, and Spy Fox would get his next mission in Some Assembly Required. After retrieving a mysterious trash bag containing a model box for an evil dogbot, Spy Fox is sent off to the World's Fair to investigate what's going on, and soon learns that the villain, Napoleon LaRoche, has reversed the scale and has created a gigantic evil dogbot. Once wounded up to maximum power, it will embark on a destructive rampage. The mission this time? To deactivate the dogbot and stop LaRoche's villainous worldwide rampage. So, Spy Fox must get both the off switch and its activation code in order to save both the fair and the world from LaRoche's evil scheme. The game does a great job at continuing to build up what the first game had established, with doing a different way of setting up the main conflict and mission of the game right away, establishing the central location and where the player is meant to go on a given game path. The team also did an amazing job of further building the series' world. The gameplay this time requires Spy Fox to retrieve 2 key items needed to stop the Dogbot and having to get into the inner workings to do so. And once more, the team did a great job at varying up the paths as well as upping the challenge on the puzzles, as they require more creative thinking and memory than in the first game. It also does a good job at keeping up the series' humor and continual references to Smart and Bond, but also throws into some current events at the time, like with the Sheet Twins, though some other bits can be hit or miss.
On the side it says, "Some assembly required." Sounds like an excellent title for one of my adventures.
How polite. Obviously, you're a fox with home training.
Yes, I am housebroken, thank you. Talk about escaping by the skin of your teeth.
The World's Fair as a location is very lively, with numerous locations and attractions, and having some characters and attractions only be available on a particular path is a nice touch, and adds to the variety and replayability. The backgrounds complement it as well, as they work in giving each location a unique and standout look from one another. The minigame in this, Things from Space, is pretty fun and somewhat intense, given how it gets more challenging with each level. Also, the character designs were tweaked and refined a little bit, making them look better than in the first game. Speaking of, the new characters here have some delightful, fun, and enjoyable personalities, though some may come off a bit grating, while also bringing back a couple of them from the first game in their suitable roles.
The last time I ended up with a fever from being cat scratched.
Right. Sorry about that.
I tell you, kiddo, I did the single snow boot as the masked she-bear.
Napoleon LaRoche's evil plan is certainly an interesting one, with having a giant Dogbot go on a gigantic rampage and having almost no way for anyone to stop it is somewhat ingenious. But his reasoning is a stark contrast compared to the first one, where William the Kid's motivation and reason was to take over the whole dairy industry. LaRoche's main motive was because he was too short to get on a ride he really wanted to go on and was mocked because of his height. Although this is a relatable situation, after all, who wasn't disappointed when they couldn't go on a particular ride as a kid, it does make LaRoche's reasons be much more petty, which was kind of the point. Put all that together, and you've got yourself a nice and solid follow-up. Okay, might as well address the reason why Spy Fox's voice changed in between games. Well, unlike Papa and Pajama Sam, where it was for financial reasons, Spy Fox had a completely different one. See, around this time, Bob Zank had moved out to Hawaii, and since it was next to impossible to remotely record for the part, Spy Fox was recast to Mike Matioy, who did a good job in taking over the character.
Wait a second. I recognize it now. It's the ancient hieroglyphic language of the infamous Minoan Musaka cult. No, Monkey Penny, not smelly. Smelly, as in the Society for Meaningless Evil, Larceny, Lying, and Yelling.
Another aspect worth addressing is this really intriguing Easter egg. Right now, you're probably thinking, what on earth was up with that? Well, it's actually a nod to the death scene from Dragon's Lair. Thank goodness this wasn't a part of the final game, because this definitely would have scared a lot of kids. Not a lot of unused elements or music cues in this one, but there is one fascinating unused piece of graphic art, an early concept piece of Spycore's cheat, where his office layout is flipped around, the top of his head can be visible, his chair is a different model, and his hand is a lot bigger. This is about the closest anyone is going to get to seeing what he was supposed to look like. Lastly, like with the first game, there is a lot of unused dialogue, which includes,
Can you tell me anything else about an ice skating move known as the single snow boot?
In times like these, I think about what the cod would say.
What would he say?
Hand me my cape, son.
Where are you at in your mission, Spy Fox?
I have the activation code and the off switch, but I haven't gotten into the evil Dogbot yet.
I'm sure it's much easier than you think. Don't look too hard.
I'll keep that in mind.
Monkey Penny, out.
So, where could I get a rose for Ladybug?
Fox got a crush on a ladybug. Fox got a crush on a ladybug.
When Spy Fox arrived at the World's Fair on October 26, 1999, he managed to get the giant dogbot to heel. Critics gave the game great praise for its ability to encourage logical thinking, the characters, and for being immensely entertaining, and even said that parents would enjoy the game's humor. So, with all that, to no one's surprise, the game went on to be another success. Jumping ahead another 2 years, and the Fox would be off on his most out-of-this-world mission yet in Operation Ozone. And here, an orbiting aerosol can is spraying a seemingly endless spray of aerosol directly at the Earth's ozone layer. Who could possibly be behind this nefarious plan? None other than the Queen of Cosmetics, Poodles Galore. And what's her ultimate goal for doing this?
All the little darlings will scream for my sunscreen. Poodles brand SPF 2001.
Really? Okay then, whatever floats your boat. Anyways, Spy Fox's mission? To destroy the camp before it depletes the ozone layer. Thus, he has to travel to 4 places around the world and get the 4 ingredients needed to finish the one thing that can destroy it, the congeal pill, and also capture Poodles Galore. As far as final entries go, this was a decent way to end the series. The team once again did a great job on expanding the series world with the various new locations Spy Fox has to travel to, the different characters he interacts with, and what needs to be done in order to progress through the mission. On a more poignant note, the game's environmental theme has become more relevant now than it was back when it was first made, as global heating has become more of a hot button issue in recent years. Not trying to go all philosophical here, just making an observation. The gameplay keeps things interesting by having to globetrot to 4 different areas as opposed to keeping it all in one location like the first 2 games did. And once more, the backgrounds do a great job at giving each location a different feel and vibe. The puzzles here are among the most challenging ones yet, requiring plenty of memorizing, strategizing, and of course, creative problem solving. The new minigame for this one is called Radioactive Trash Collector, where you have to collect all of the germs and junk on screen. It's rather basic as you only have to aim the crosshairs at the object or use a smart bomb when you collect it in the bonus round. But it's still a decently fun top-down shooter game. Also, there's the bowling minigame, which is about as simple as a bowling game can get, but it's still decently fun regardless. One other thing they did to spice it up was having the player need to use 2 or more spy gadgets and backtracking to the command center to get more, which helps add to the challenge. It's also cool that Monkey Penny gets to be a part of the action for the first and only time in the series.
Not so fast, Poodles.
The game does a good job at taking advantage of the globetrotting aspect, though it could have gone much further with it, which leads into some of the flaws. Now, as I already said, the minigames are really simple and basic to the point where they become too easy. Not to mention, some of the jokes can be somewhat groan-worthy.
You're looking sharp, Pins. Now I'm really on a roll. Roger Bohr. Wow, you had me wigged out there for a second.
Also, the new characters in this are a mixed bag. There are some that have weird and fun personalities, but others are very one-note and can get somewhat grating. Another one would be the villain's goal and motivation. Not to say that Poodles Galore herself was bad or anything. On the contrary, she's a very fun and amusing villainess, and it's good that they chose to deviate from the old world domination plot, as they already did that in the previous game. But she probably has the flimsiest motivation of the 3 villains. I mean, she wants to destroy the ozone layer just to get people to buy her brand of sunscreen, when there are much easier methods to accomplish that without putting the whole Earth in danger. Other than those bits, this is a fun entry and again, a decent one for the series to stop at. Okay, now's as good a time as any to mention one of the most peculiar Easter eggs Humongous ever slipped in. Yeah, it's meant to be just a silly throwaway bit, but still, it's a really weird one. For unused elements, like the previous game, it doesn't have a whole lot of them. It's mainly just unused dialogue, including bits like,
I can't get through the quicksand that way. I'd better make use of the grappling granny spy gadget again. I think the color of that bowling shirt would work better for me.
I'm sure it would, but you have to trade back the other shirt first.
That's a mullet-style wig. Très chic. There isn't a pearl here. I should keep looking.
Again, though there's not a whole lot from the main game, it does have one fascinating unused piece that was left over. A teaser for a then upcoming game called A Gas Pocket Adventure, Aliens Ate My Cookies, which would have been Humongous Entertainment's first ever pre-rendered CGI adventure game. Now, a quick rundown on it. It was going to be about a girl named Miss Hat. In the demo, she's named Jessie Sparks, going about taking 6 rare photos for Dr. Crabcracker, while also trying to stop Patrick Fakewater from causing trouble by feeding aliens cookies that made them rapidly multiply. This sounds like it could have been a fun adventure game. It was slated to be released later in the fall of that year, but it was ultimately cancelled because the Infogrames executives thought a game with a female protagonist wouldn't sell well. Yeah, really. How did they come to that conclusion exactly? Apparently, they focus tested it with an all-male group. Yeah, they really should have done it with a much wider focus test group in mind. Anyways, getting back to Spy Fox, the only other unused elements are some instrumental renditions of the main theme and a few of the jukebox songs. Speaking of, an interesting bit of trivia. Both this game and Freddy Fish 5 double as soundtrack albums when you pop them in a CD music player. Pretty cool, huh? When the mission headed into space on March 30th, 2001, Spy Fox once more solved it with his usual brand of wit and suave. It spent 4 weeks in the top 10 selling home education software in May and June of that year, and went on to sell 77,133 units. And critics were once more lauding it for being entertaining for both kids and adults, its humor, and for encouraging younger players to think more strategically. After that, there wouldn't be another entry in the series because, as I said in the last video, Infogrames didn't want to make any more of the adventure games, and the series never received any console ports outside the PC and Mac except for the ill-fated Wii port of Dry Cereal. But it would find new life on Steam and the App Store. Spy Fox would go on to win various awards over the course of its run, including a Best Pick Award, a Gold Honor Parents' Choice Award, an All-Star Award, and 20 Awards of Excellence. Spy Fox is the oldest skewing of the Big Four for a good reason, with its exciting and engaging scenarios and gameplay, charming, witty, and memorable characters, and humor anyone of any age can enjoy. Next time, we'll be moving on from the world of espionage and have a more down-to-earth experience, as we'll be heading out to play some sports.
He lives his life where danger dwells. He spends his days in peril. He gets the clues that solve the crimes. He always helps his fellow man. He has the gadgets to make him cool. He can escape any trap. He's got got the gumption